Hey guys, Larry Olabamiwo from the Gym Rat Pack again. I want to speak on this Dillian Whyte thing, and we've already done a video on it, obviously, but a few things have come to light now. First of all, I do know the substance that Dillian Whyte got caught for. I'm not 100% sure if I can mention it right now. I don't want to get sued, you know what I mean? So, but let me just say it's a heavy duty drug. I thought it was EPO at first, but it's very similar to EPO. But I'll have to see if I can mention it on another video. But it's very heavy duty. This is why AJ cancelled the fight straight away. But yeah, so basically, what's happened is Dillian apparently had a conversation with Chisora on the phone, and he suspects that Eddie Hearn, of all people, has spiked his sample with this substance. Let me just say that is the biggest load of nonsense ever. That's even more nonsense than what Deontay Wilder was claiming about Tyson Fury as to why he lost the last fight with him. That's just so nonsensical. I get that everyone's intrigued as to how Chisora knew, because apparently Chisora spoke to David Haye a few days before, saying that he's gonna fail a drug test, and Chisora's gonna take over the fight with AJ. Listen, that's all speculation. That even Chisora is now saying that, oh, David Haye's a good salesman. Who knows? Who knows what was said? But to suggest that because of this supposed, conversation, that could be a possibility is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And let me just say that another thing that we found out, and it really fries me, and I've spoken on this a lot about how boxers in particular, especially in this country and in America for that matter, get away with not testing positive for drugs, is we now found out through Eddie Hearn that Dillian didn't have a British Boxing Board of Control license. He had a Portuguese one, but he didn't have a British one, which is very strange. And I'll tell you why. If you are going to box in this country, even as a foreign boxer, you have to have a British Boxing Board license. Now, you could be given one temporarily just for that match. This is why you will come over, do a medical, and be licensed by the board to fight that particular fight. So the same thing would have happened in Dillian's case, even though he is British. I know he lives in Portugal, but why are the British Boxing Board of Control not insisting on these British fighters who are fighting in the UK having British Boxing Board of Control licenses? I'll tell you why. Because if you don't have a British, it's the same thing that Conor Benn is able to get off on a technicality now on his drug test. If you don't have a British Boxing Board of Control license, UKAD are not obliged to test you. This is how they're getting away with it. So now you only need to avoid the VADA tests, which you can avoid because you know pretty much the time frame they're gonna test you. So as long as you make sure your body's clear by the time they come to test you, you're good. So this is how a lot of guys are avoiding UK anti-doping tests, because as you've seen with the Conor Benn case, if it was a UK anti-doping test, it would be a no-brainer that you'd be banned for at least 2 years. But because it's a VADA test, they can argue jurisdiction, and this is the technicality that Conor Benn got off on. It wasn't because he was cleared and whatnot, because it is old nonsense that has been spouted by a lot of people in boxing about Conor Benn being cleared. He hasn't been cleared. His suspension was lifted because they felt that the British Boxing Board of Control didn't have jurisdiction because he didn't have a British license. That was it. This nonsense needs to stop. Apparently Tyson Fury doesn't have a British Boxing Board of Control license. I'm sure a lot of boxers, top boxers in the country, do not have a British Boxing Board of Control license, which means they don't get tested by UKAD. This is how they're avoiding drug tests. This is, and I've been saying this for the longest time. most of these British fighters, even the ones that protest from the rooftop that, oh yeah, everyone should be banned and blah, 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 they're all on PEDs. Most fighters are on PEDs. I don't care what anyone, I've said this to the cows come home. Yeah, I've been proven right. So for anyone to say otherwise is just nonsense. Do you think that, obviously Dillian Whyte, this is the third time, and a lot of people say, oh yeah, well, he was exonerated the second time. Well, again, we don't even know the ins and outs of that case. Apparently, he gave some excuse about dog food, but why would Dianabol, one of the oldest anabolic steroids, be in dog food of all things? You know, those days, the days of contaminated products, and in the Western world anyway. I don't know about Mexico. Obviously, we know about Mexico and whatnot, but in the Western European countries, the days of contaminated supplements and food products are gone. Really, you know what I mean? So yeah, but just to cut a long story short, this is how boxers, at least in the UK, are now getting away with not being tested, and they can narrow the testing frame by joining VADA when they know that they're off everything. This is why a lot of them are messing up. And I believe that a lot of them got this from the Floyd Mayweather times when he was boxing, because he used to retire after every fight, which means he didn't have a license, which means he couldn't be tested, so he could use whatever he wanted. And then when he's ready, nearer to the time of the fight, he will then get his license, but he's clear of everything. Then they can implement this so-called Olympic style testing. So it's all smoke and mirrors, to be honest with you. I'm not hopeful that Dillian Whyte is going to be found, you know, getting a ban, to be honest. Even though what he was using was obviously a PED and obviously to cheat. And in fact, it's such an obscure drug, there's no way that could come up in any sort of products as contaminated. So, yeah. But yeah, let me know, guys. Well, let me know what you think about all this. Should the British Boxing Board be forcing British fighters to have British licenses? I think so. Let me know what you think.